When you're in love and you are wondering if he really is the one, there's an ancient sign sure to tell you.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World.
Is over and done. Catch a bee and
I'm Hilary
it don't
Seabrook,
sting you.
and for this episode I'm joined
You're
by
in a
drummer
spell that's
Clark
just
Tracey, who
begun.
I have known forever.
It's the guarantee till the
Clark is a
end
prolific and
of
very, very
time.
talented drummer.
Your
Works with just about everybody
truth
who's
you
anybody.
have
And
won.
he has a new album out at the moment, which I've already reviewed actually on my blog. This one is called Introducing Emily Massa.
Be lie sleeping.
What you're listening to now is the wonderful A Sleeping Bee, which includes lyrics by Truman Capote, who is one of my favourite authors.
Where you'll see a sun-up sky.
So I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with Clark Tracey.
Go laughing by as love comes up to you. Sleep on me, don't wake up. Can't believe I just passed. He's mine for the taking. I'm so happy at last. Maybe I dream, but he seems sweet. He's golden as a crown. Oh, sleep and baby, don't hold me. I walk with my feet off the ground. With my one true.
Hey, welcome to Harmonious World.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. So let's start by talking about this new album. So introducing Emily Massa. When did you decide that Emily was somebody you wanted to feature?
I first heard her doing what she does on her Instagram posts from about, must be getting on for 2 years now. And she was doing, she transcribed sax solos, and she was performing them either on her own or with her dad on tenor, to an astounding ability, I thought. And the reason I put any new lineup together, I mean, excuse me, it sounds like you remember my first one with Guy and Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Which was in the early 80s. I put that together. There's always been one person that was like the catalyst for me to form a new band around them. I wasn't looking to put a new band together at all. However, I was very inspired listening to her, and I was already working with Alex Clark, and I thought it would be really good to pair them up in a band together. And also, it's an unusual sort of a thing to have a vocalist as a side person, you know, rather than trumpet and tenor kind of vibe, which I've always done that sort of thing. So that appealed to me as well, because that has a lot of options attached to it, you know.
Sure.
Lots of things you can play around with that are new to the public and us.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to talk about her scat singing. She's quite phenomenal, isn't she?
Yeah, I really rate her very highly as a scat singer.
Yeah.
I've known a few, as you probably appreciate, over the years.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, you worked with Cleo Lane for a while, didn't you?
Oh, I wasn't in Cleo's band. I've worked with her, but I was thinking more along the lines of Tina May.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I was her MD for a number of years,
Wow.
as well as working with her for a good 7 years, I think it was.
Right.
And that's with regard to scat singing.
Yeah.
But I've worked with a ton of vocalists from this country.
Yeah.
And overseas, of course, but I mean from here, yeah, loads of them. But I really rate her very, you know, I think, I mean, dare I put my bits and pieces on the line and suggest I think she's the best scat vocalist we've had, like, for years. I know there are a couple of contenders. I know the other ones out there.
Yeah.
I totally respect them. The thing is about Emily, she's just turned 20.
Ridiculous.
To listen to it, you wouldn't imagine it. I mean, her knowledge of the history is way in advance. Her attention to detail is, you know, OCD.
Yeah.
You know, she really wants to get everything absolutely right. You know, and she works for hours on it.
Yeah.
She just put another Instagram post up with her dad after a long break of a Sonny Rollins solo. He playing the tenor chair,
Yeah.
and it was like chorus after chorus,
Wow.
absolutely phenomenal. And she
Yeah.
learns, you know, it wasn't reading.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
She can memorize it, which I think is ridiculous, you know.
it really is. It really is. In addition to that, I think her delivery of vocals, delivery of lyrics
Yeah,
is stunning. So I love Truman Capote's words
yeah,
for A Sleeping Bee. And in fact, that's what I'm starting the podcast with.
okay,
But the reason I particularly like that track is that opening where it's just Emily Massa and the piano, and then the whole band comes in. So it sort of does everything.
yeah,
But the way she delivers those lyrics is so sweet.
hmm
It's just beautiful.
yeah. I mean, it's she's already kind of grounded in a lot of areas of vocalese, you know, and the world that she's entered into. I mean, she actually started as a classical saxophonist, would you believe? So
Really?
she's got all that side together as well.
Right. So
Um,
her reading's probably really good.
she can read really well, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Not that I've ever had to put anything in front of her to read. She just memorizes it.
Yeah.
Um,
Excellent.
yeah. Well, that's what else can you say
Okay.
about Emily? She's got a great future ahead of her. I know that.
Absolutely. One of the other tracks that I really like, and I'm going to play a little snippet from it in a minute, is Suddenly Last Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Well, if you remember my first band, as you say you do, that was
Yeah.
the title track of my first album.
Yeah, I
I think
remembered
it was
it.
1983 or four that I recorded that the first time. I
Yeah.
have recorded it. This is the fourth time I've recorded it.
Wow.
And it's an absolute showstopper putting it on at the end of each gig. You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, if you're going to play that now, it's evident how tight it is. You know how her attention to detail, as we were talking about, you know, is superb. Although she doesn't take a scat solo on this one,
No, no. It's a
but
different side to her.
it's reproducing the head as a trumpeter would do next to the tenor player,
Yeah.
and it's just impeccable. You know,
Really
it's
is. Yeah.
exciting.
Well, thank you for that. And I love this album. I think it's a really interesting one. I reviewed it a couple of weeks ago on my blog
Right.
because as soon as I got it, I was like, this is lovely. There's something about it in terms of UK jazz. I don't know what it is, but it's just lovely. Just really
Yeah,
good.
I feel exactly the same. I'm really proud of it, and
Yeah.
I mean, consequently, I had probably too many of them made.
Well, you've got
Mm.
enough gigs coming up. You should hopefully be able to sell some.
We've got a hell of a lot of gigs
Yeah,
coming. I think it's 30 gigs by the end of July.
that's incredible.
Yeah,
That's so good.
we've
That's
already done a whole bunch of them last year, leading up to the recording.
right.
So we've had a really good go at it.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. That's brilliant. So, can I talk to you? I don't want to, I mean, I think that's very much talking about the future of British jazz, but I also want to talk to you about your dad. And
Okay.
I've noticed recently on social media, you've been putting up loads of photos of your dad in various places with the amazing people that he played with.
Yeah,
Um, so there must be a sense of pride, obviously, there.
of course. I think for many people, say the last couple of generations at least, he remains an unsung hero.
Yeah,
It's bizarre. You know,
yeah,
I mean, he died just over 10 years ago now. Yeah, a little over 10 years ago he died. There wasn't a tribute concert for him. You know,
No.
obviously there was like half a dozen obituaries in the important press,
Yeah.
um, and then it's all back to normal.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that with other of his contemporaries. You know, even now they're still kind of, oh, let's have another tribute for him, you know, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stan has had very few. I mean, I've led every one of them,
Right.
and like someone said to me, well, perhaps they're expecting you to do that. Well, okay. On the one hand, I appreciate that. On the other, I was his drummer. You know,
Yeah.
I very much took the role as his drummer
Yeah.
rather than his co-leader. I was not his co-leader,
No.
um, and I have my own band
Yeah.
that I've always focused on.
Well, you always have, haven't you? I mean,
Yeah,
you know, you must have been, so you're a couple of years older than me. So you were in your early 20s when you were recording with people like Guy Barker and Jamie Talbot, who
yeah,
are, you know, two of the other finest musicians this country's ever produced.
yeah.
So, you know, you've been doing it alongside all of the stuff that you did with Stan. But I think I agree with you, but it's interesting. I did a little bit of work with Simon Spillett and the guys on the Tubby Hayes stuff, you know,
Yeah,
a documentary, and now Simon is touring that with his
yeah,
big band from time to time. And I think Tubby is another one of those people who had never really got the success that he would have done it had he been alive now. You know, if he'd been born
absolutely.
today.
Yeah, I mean, he's maintained a kind of a reputation
Yeah.
amongst
Oh, yeah.
those in the know. Um, as far as you know, like kids that I teach in college and that generation, and as I'm saying, the previous generation, perhaps they're still oblivious.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
if they have heard of him, they certainly haven't checked out his music.
No. No.
And you know, it's daft to say, well, he's you know, it sounds a bit like Johnny Griffin, or it's not as good as so and so. That's so beside the point.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I think there are a number of people who in the 60s and 70s were doing British jazz the best it's almost like it's ever been. You know,
Dick
Bill
Morrison,
Lesage, Dick Morrissey, Bill Lesage.
yeah,
You know, these guys were just phenomenal.
absolutely, yeah,
And you know, we know who they are because
yeah,
we're the people that either played with them or knew about them or whatever, but they have never had the respect really that I think they deserved.
yeah. Well, I hate to say this one, but I mean, my dad always said this: if they had a different passport, it would be a different story.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
That's absolutely true.
I mean,
Yeah,
Stan found it very difficult to work in Europe unless it was with a European musician who'd asked for him.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
and how about this one? A couple of friends of ours managed to get a coast to coast tour of the Canadian festivals. You know, you start on the East Coast and they're all right next to each other, all the way across. It's about 6 dates. And of course, Stan said, well, on the way back, should we try and get something in America?
Yeah.
You know, and we couldn't get one gig in America.
No.
Not one gig. I mean, what we did end up doing was an art gallery to nobody
Right.
in New York.
Right.
An art gallery,
Yeah.
no money, and playing to nobody. And then there was we played at the British ambassador's residence to an invited audience who weren't really jazz fans at all.
No. No.
You know,
Yeah.
so the whole thing was like, oh, thanks very much, America. You know,
Yeah.
it's you know, you call it Coles to Newcastle, but there's a man at the top of his career in
Yeah.
his prime with Bobby Wellings is on board, by the way.
God, I know. He was incredible, wasn't he?
Well, you know, I mean, how
Yeah.
can you overlook those two together?
I know. I know. But there we go. But you've had some recognition. You've been awarded the BEM in 2019.
Yes, that was a nice little touch. I wasn't expecting that.
No, and that's a bit of sort of establishment going, yeah, we've got some amazing musicians in this country and we should be proud of them.
Well, as I understand it, I think I know who it's from as well. It's one of my regular punters when I was running Hearts Jazz.
Right.
I did that for 10 years, and apart from a 3-month break for the summer, we put on weekly jazz
Yeah.
and catered for hundreds of bands, both
Yeah.
college students. We gave them a whole season,
Yeah.
and of course top of the range people. We ran a festival, and I think, well, when I met the chap who awarded me on Her Majesty's behalf, he said, "This is for your contribution to supporting musicians in your business."
Yeah.
So really, that's what that was for.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It was lovely, of course.
Oh, yeah. And that brings us full circle, really, back to, supporting a 20-year-old singer who's just starting out in the game. And I think that's a really good thing to do.
Well, thank you.
Not many young artists have got the caliber of musicians that you've got in that band.
Yeah.
People can check out your forthcoming dates on your website.
Yeah, they're all on the website. Or if you want to go down the social media route, I've got them all on Facebook on the Clark Tracey Quintet page.
Fantastic. Well, it was really good to talk to you, Clark. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And I really appreciate the exposure. It's all useful. Thank you.
Well, that's what I do this for. So, yeah.
Sure.
Thank you for listening to that conversation with Clark Tracey. And he was talking about his dad, Stan Tracey. And I can remember seeing Stan several times in my youth. What you're listening to now is Emily Massa and the Clark Tracey Quintet with The Man I Love. I hope you have a great week.
My way, I'll do my best to make him stay. He'll look at me and smile, I'll understand, and in a little while he'll take my hand. And though it seems absurd, I know he won't say a word. Maybe I will find him someday, maybe Monday, or maybe not. Still I'm sure to find him someday, maybe Tuesday will be my good news day. He'll build a little home just meant for two, from which I'd never roam. Who would you? And so I'll else above, I'm waiting for the man I love. Oh Lord above, I'm really in a mess. Being single is a stress. I just can't wait until the day when I will meet my man. And when I do, I never will roam. Well, at least that's the plan. But listen, don't get me wrong, for I still have the fear that the passion might go out the window.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.